What's up, you lazy, entitled, basement-dwelling millennials, bootstrapping boomers, apathetic Xers, and goddamn Gen Z kids today? The future is now. Or so we're being told. We've got a guest here today who has started the Future is Now coalition, and we are very interested to see how this organization is looking to reshape politics, because clearly it needs some reshaping. So, Travis, please tell us who you are, what you're doing. Give us a little bit of a rundown.
Yeah, I'm Travis Misurell. We're the founder of Futures Now Coalition, also known as FINC. And my background has been in psychology and just generally systems thinking, just looking at how systems work. In my past, is more in a business type of perspective, but then it grown into politics and looking at the systems of government and how our system works. And so eventually just tying my passion for psychology and systems into what we're doing now, which Futures Now is working towards rethinking democracy from the ground up, ultimately working to build a citizen-owned alternative political ecosystem that bypasses the influence of the establishment. So we'll be going into that today.
All
Perfect.
right.
Perfect. So I guess how did you start this? I'm curious how some of these kind of organizations like yourselves sort of occur in reality.
Yeah, sure. So, kind of all my life, I saw the world kind of differently. I highly identify as neurodiverse, and just the way I process the world around me feels different than most people. And just all my life, I just felt like the world is kind of like organized the wrong way, and that if it actually worked the right way, most people would be happy. And it's like it mostly doesn't work because it's working the wrong way, and it's specifically working just to help the powerful and not just the majority. So originally it wasn't so much related to politics. It wasn't until 2016 I got more interested once I saw the whole Trump stuff as well as Bernie running. I got pretty interested in the progressive movement for a while, and so that's when I really got into politics specifically. And then pretty much just in the organization's been about around. I started about 2.5 years ago, and so pretty much it's once I unfolded the perspective of politics. I like all my life I always felt like if I could just word things and frame things the right way, I could get a lot of people to see the world a little bit differently than already. And then so once it got into the context of politics, and then I got into part of it being technology and part of it's psychology. The bigger part for me and my involvement, the organization's involvement, is actually going to be more on the psychology and the reframing of politics, more so than the tech side of things. But so yeah, so kind of in a nutshell, went from just understanding perspectives. I also feel like part of my understanding of people and perspectives is like everyone has different narratives in this country, obviously, and there's a lot of different political narratives. And what we're trying to do is basically not try to change people's narratives, but go with like almost no matter what narrative you think of politically right now, what we want to offer America works in your favor. So, we're not here to say that one narrative is wrong or one is better than the other, but we're here to say that, the system isn't working, and what we have to offer, no matter what ideology you believe in, this will work in your favor. It's going to move away from the establishment and status quo and more towards citizen representation. And so, yeah, so I started the organization. Now we have about 25 people on the team volunteering our time towards making this happen.
Yeah. How long ago did you guys actually get started? How long has this been a functional project?
So it's like 2.5 years ago is when I really got this started, turned the idea into an organization and started hiring the first couple people. So we've been, again, mostly volunteer at this stage, but been building it for the past about 2.5 years.
And how far along kind of your roadmap on your mission do you feel you are now, 2.5 years in?
So we really fleshed out the first half, which is digital politics, the reframing, the language around what we're, how to really explain what we're doing, like changing the system from the ground up. the that was really the hardest challenge, was just articulating the mission. Even right now, like, our website is still one stage behind in our recent way of articulating it, but it took a while to just be able to explain it in like an elevator pitch and stuff like that. And it took a while for people to really grasp the bigger vision. People just would assume it's just about technology, and yes, that is a big part of what we're doing, but there's a lot of other pieces to it. Fleshing out the language, also the culture of the organization, finding the right people for the team. Most of the team focuses on outreach and engagement, mostly over social media, and just a lot of, like, kind of every bit of what we're doing from in a very different way. And so there wasn't a lot of precedent to follow. So we had to try things ourselves and in a unique light. Even like we talk to a lot of different movements these days, and most of them are not even social media heavy. They're very, like, kind of still in the traditional in-person protests and stuff only, and not capitalizing on social media. So we're kind of learning what we can from the past, but then kind of re-evolving or reinventing what works for the digital age. So in a nutshell, it's more about the digital politics side, and we're getting close to what we're calling a breakout moment, which is the next phase.
I guess building on that, looking through kind of your online presence here, which you admitted right now is very, it's a little all over the place at the moment. Needs some boiling down and refining that you said you're working on here. What is digital politics? Like, I mean, I've read through and I get the gist of kind of the vague, flowery descriptions that are in the website, and kind of your mission statements and stuff like that. But digital politics, digital democracy, aside from online voting, I guess, potentially, what is all of this? What is your elevator pitch? You said you've kind of fleshed this out and gotten that. We need that elevator pitch here, kind of understand before we can really move forward.
Yeah, sure. So the two main ingredients is digital politics and digital democracy. So starting with digital politics, the idea is, the easy thing is it's going from changing the focus from left versus right to people versus power, but really showing, trying to build an umbrella that it doesn't matter if you're left. It doesn't matter if you're left or right. It's more about being anti-establishment is what we want to focus on. We want to focus people towards grassroots candidates. So with digital politics, we're focusing it as like up-down politics. So like up-serving candidates are those that serve their big donors or serve those in power, serve those above them. Where down-serving is like the grassroots candidates serving citizens. And so the idea is, so for example, like a lot of the biggest anti-establishment movement going on right now is the progressive movement, but a lot of the country won't agree. Like they would agree to the side of like the progressives talk about money out of politics and how the status quo is a problem, even corporate Democrats. But because of the socialist policies, so many of the people in this country will never connect to that side, never support that side. So digital politics is more of an umbrella of like, it could be libertarian, anarchist, progressives, like socialists, anywhere along the fence. All that matters is people want to get away from the status quo, that those in power shouldn't control how power works. They shouldn't control elections, that the system isn't working. It's about true representation, and that there, like Princeton did a study, there's a net zero correlation between public opinion and government action. So we kind of want to build a more of an umbrella that like we want progressives and anarchists and libertarians, everyone to be able to at least agree together on changing democracy itself for true representation, money out of politics, kind of put the politics aside and focus on democracy as a system. And then we could debate the other issues. So like, let's not on day one fight about healthcare, like the policies on healthcare or climate change. Let's just talk about how the system's not representative, because like 85-90% of Americans do believe that the system is broken. They want change. They want money out of politics. Like a lot of people believe excuse me, a lot, like pretty much a lot of what we're putting together is what 85-90% of Americans agree with, regardless of their policy stances. And
so what's I hear about, you're talking about these concepts of fighting against power and pointing out sort of who it appears a politician is serving, people or a corporation, whatnot. What does that look like? What are you guys doing? How are you just like highlighting politicians who are doing certain things, and how would you be doing that? Or like, what is your guys' involvement with those concepts?
Sure. So real quick, just to clarify, so a republic is a type of representative democracy. So a republic is doesn't, just because we're a republic doesn't mean we're not a democracy. It's a type of democracy. Just want to refer to that comment. But so to answer your question, so right now, once we do build digital democracy, that side of things is where we're going to have politician report cards. So every politician will be showcased equally, and it would show who's funding their campaign, what industry is the money coming from, what are their promises, but do they deliver on their promises once they're in office? So once the tech is out, that's what we're going to build it in-house. But for now, we're citing all the resources that people could use right now, like opensecrets.org, Unusual Whales, and we'll have a whole list. There's an app we're releasing in the next couple weeks that's going to have a whole list of reputable resources that exist today that shows exactly who funds campaigns and also their stock market investments. So that kind of also answers the question that you're asking. So we want Americans to look at, like, we don't care, even if I fundamentally disagree with you about your policy stance, I still want you to vote for somebody that genuinely would actually represent you, regardless if I agree with you or not. And so we want people to vote not just D down the line, R down the line, or just because they like what the politician says. We already know politicians lie. We've known that like pretty much all our lives as digital natives, and probably even before that. But we want to empower Americans to think for themselves and be able to quickly see who, like how legitimate a politician is. Are they beholden to donors, big donors, or are they actually beholden to the people they should be, which is the voters?
Oh, okay. I feel like there's some organizations out there that kind of have the Open Secrets being one of them. Obviously, a little bit more information forward rather than really being filtered through the system. But there's dozens of political report cards out there from every organization that is really politically involved. What exactly are you planning on doing differently, and how? Like, regardless, it's lovely to say that we don't want to vote D down the line or R down the line, but the reality of the system that we have is that you're doing one of those two things, or you're going to the ballot box and filling in third-party candidates for fun because you've got nothing better to do with your day, I guess. I don't know why people vote third party right now, but the point being that what is this organization? How is this organization going to be changing that fundamental structure? I mean, the extra information to make people more informed voters is wonderful, but I don't see beyond that, like how I'm trying to follow where that goes from just information to actionable change.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, yes, there's a lot of services that already exist in that vein. The idea is that we're not reinventing the wheel. We're trying to be the connective tissue of those existing wheels. So, like, the report cards that we're going to create, it's not even coming from it's not going to be our own information. It's going to come from Open Secrets and Unusual Whales and those that already exist. FINC is also not even going to own it. We're going to it's actually going to be America that owns it. We're literally building something that citizens will be able to opt into an equal ownership stake of this technology. So every American will be able to opt in once they turn 18, have an equal ownership stake. They get to vote for, it's going to be kind of like a republic model, to be able to vote for who runs that technology. FINC is actually not even going to be part of it. We're like, once we get this on its feet and it's running smoothly over the next 10 years, we gift it to America, and we're focusing more on the digital politics side of things. So that's the tech side. And again, like, the tech is very secondary. People end up overemphasizing the tech. That's part of the challenge.
So just to understand, so this is basically going to be an aggregate service. Is really so okay.
That part of it, yeah, that the
Sure.
tech side is like going to be like a civic internet, yeah.
So we've got an aggregate service for kind of the political rating systems that already exist, and then what? What is the next piece of this puzzle?
Yeah, so the idea is that, Americans want change. The system's not working. Trump isn't the problem. He's a symptom of the problem. He was birthed by the system that exists. More voters are not Democrats or Republicans. There's 40% are independent, 30% are Democrat, 25% are Republican. We're not even saying that third parties are the answer, but we want to give the choice to America. Maybe third parties should exist. Maybe no parties should exist. Maybe the two parties should stay, and that we just have stronger primaries instead of the rigged primaries that exist today. The point is, we want to give America a voice. There's no movement, virtually no movement that exists right now where they actually want America to choose. Like, they have an ideology, and then they want people to fit into the ideology. We want to be the referee. We're trying to take very little stances on what we're doing. We want to allow we want to build a system of infrastructure where Americans can make choices themselves through polling systems.
I guess I understand the ideology. The ideology, and I think that's great. I think that having, somewhere down the road, if we could get to something where there are more choices that are either defined specifically by candidates or a parliamentary system or a third-party system, Taylor and I talk about this on the podcast a lot. There's a million different ways we could do democracy better, right? So I fully on board with that. I'm still trying to get the connection here of, this flowery ideology of where I think many of us would like to be. Sure, I can agree that we all agree on this. How is your organization going to functionally restructure our system to make that possible? Because right now, a third-party candidate is a non-starter. You cannot have that happen objectively within our system, and that's not me saying, like, it just won't work because people don't vote this way or something. Like, the way that the system is rigged, which I think you seem to understand, that's not going to happen. And all of these fundamental structural changes need to happen somehow. Ideally, if we're sticking kind of with our democratic system, ideally legislatively. The more we go forward, it's starting to look like that may come a little bit more violently, as much as I think hopefully all of us would like to avoid that. How is your coalition, your organization, trying to make those fundamental structural changes, aside from just, again, telling people about what you'd like to see and providing them with some information?
Yeah, so the idea is that, the biggest reason a lot of these better ideas can't succeed is that there's so many different ideas. There's no infrastructure to gain a consensus. So basically, like, what we've already been doing, we've been connecting with third-party candidates, independents, and progressives within the Democratic Party. We don't care. We want all the choices. We want to build an infrastructure that allows America to see all their choices, see the pros and cons of different choices, then build a consensus around different choices. Because right now, even you go to flexible voting methods, there's ranked choice voting, then there's star voting, proportional voting. So you already immediately split the votes, how that works. So we want to build infrastructure. This is all about infrastructure, building an alternative system outside the current political system that builds a consensus. We want to directly connect voters. We want every voter in one place, every candidate in one place, every movement in one place, a place for independent journalists can actually speak freely. That's the ecosystem aspect that we're talking about. So, for example, third parties, the main reason they can't win is because the establishment convinces us they can't win. That they're not allowed on media, on the mainstream media. They're
the main reason
basically
they can't
forbidden
win
to be in
is because
debates.
We have, electoral system that would not like you could not physically get a third party candidate elected to presidency.
For president, for one seat, yeah, correct.
Senate, obviously we've got a few independent senators and House and stuff, but yeah, I guess, I mean, there's structural change that needs to happen there.
No, you just need to build a consensus. So for example, what we're already working with one organization, Main Street Party, is building a digital primary system. So the idea is, while Democrats and Republicans are doing their own primaries in the next general, we're going to allow it could be third party candidates and independents and even people within the two parties that are genuinely grassroots are going to run their own primary campaign, then build a consensus of like who is viable, who's not viable. Maybe in this Senate race, they're not going to get enough votes to win in the general election. But in this House race, they have so many votes, there's so much popularity, people really want this candidate that they're going to run against the establishment Democrat and Republican. And so all this, I mean, everything is based on framing and psychology. People would vote for third party candidates if they thought it wasn't a waste of vote and it wasn't and that there was actual viable solution. So to your point, there's one out of the thousands of seats in this country, one seat is electoral college, correct? But then even that, like if you got a overwhelming majority to vote for what they actually want to vote for, that they would get the electoral college. So it's really just the splitting of people. It's defeatism that makes these people lose is the number one challenge. And that's the establishment bias. When your party leaders say that voting a different way is a waste of vote, when the mainstream media doesn't allow these people to be on debates, they're not allowed to show up in anything, that's the biggest problem. What we want to do is build a network of independent media, podcasters, influencers to be the media that the establishment media will refuse to be. And basically every aspect of what it takes to play the game of the current ecosystem, we want to replace those things with a decentralized alternative. So so instead of the 6 companies that own 90% of the news, we want to interconnect hundreds, eventually thousands of independent media to be the voice that the mainstream media refuses to be. And that's just one part of it.
So if I'm kind of getting this right, is I think what you're saying is you want to create a decentralized political information social media platform, kind of.
Yeah, it's a big part of it.
And then you're going to use obviously the members to do polling and just so the digital primary thing, how does that like actually, so I understand like potentially like a digital primary, like you're just polling or having people submit a vote via their users on this social media platform, but like how does that translate to real life? You just say 100,000 people voted for this person on the platform, and so we're gonna support them as they run for office as an independent, or?
Yeah, good question. So the way it is at this current trajectory for the next general election, like Main Street Party, whoever wins each race, right now they're just going for the House for the next general, but everyone that wins in each race would end up being in the Main Street Party as a third party against the Democrat and Republican. We're not, like, us as FINC, we don't necessarily care how it turns out. Like, it's all just a game. Like, the whole system is a game. We're just changing the game. But so the primary is not legally a primary, but we would make sure that they're on the ticket for the general election. So whoever wins, whoever is electable, has enough support from non-establishment, grassroots support. Anyone that's viable would be pushed in for the general election to be on a ticket. So yeah, that's just one piece to it, but yeah.
So your organization would ideally be providing the resources via money and manpower to put a third-party candidate on tickets wherever they would, in theory, win a primary, this digital primary. Is that how that would work? Because I mean, just because somebody wins an online poll doesn't mean that they are going to end up on a ticket without the resources of a party, which is part of why the two-party system is so prolific, is because the two-party system is what make sure that their candidates have all, sign all the right forms and have the right people in place to get them on the ballots. And it's a big reason why third-party candidates struggle so much is because they don't have those resources. So is that what your organization is going to be providing?
Not directly. Just networking it. So to your point, like, yeah, if there's only like 1 million people voting in the poll, it's not going to make a big difference. But the goal over time is to get like millions and millions of Americans on this platform. If millions of Americans use this, it's going to be the digital embodiment of America. Like Americans are literally going to own it. It's literally a system that their voice, for the first time in pretty much any country, they're going to have a near direct democracy. So it's going to gain the traction, like maybe not in the first 4 years, but over time, like, if there is a large proportion of people in that poll or even just generally paying attention to what we're doing, it doesn't matter what happens. Like, yes, they have to be on, make sure they're on the ballot, but long as there's enough of the voting bloc to show up. I mean, half the country doesn't even vote because they don't care about the two parties and other reasons. Some are just don't care about the system altogether, but a lot of people just feel it's useless. But no, so like the idea is like we're building this coalition again with independents, third parties, libertarians, Green Party. Like we're connecting all these different groups, and the idea is like for the primary, for example, all these third parties they can't win. So if this is the first scenario where they can start winning elections, they're going to start backing it. So in one race, the Green Party might be the candidate. In another race, it's an independent. And in another race, it might just be a Democrat, but they're a grassroots Democrat. And the idea is to really start changing the system where Americans actually get to choose. And I mean, everything we're putting together in this vision is based on what America wants, all the polling, like the biggest thing that you're pushing against is defeatism. And like, so our entire battle is just going to be about convincing people that like, all the numbers show you guys want this. All the numbers show America wants a third party. It shows they want money out of politics. It shows they want a different system. They believe that the system isn't working. So you give them a truly viable solution that changes things, and it'll change things. And so our goal is just to overcome the defeatism. It's kind of the nutshell.
Sure. I guess what I'm hearing the most is that you're hoping your platform will give a voice to those concerns and or what people who are on the platform, hopefully millions of people, truly want policy wise and out of their politicians. Maybe I just don't have the vision, but like I don't see how that directly correlates to like the things that you want to happen happening within the current democratic structure, especially when you're dealing with super PACs and corporations and both parties who don't want the current process to change. What sort of implementation of the things you're talking about?
Well,
how is this platform going to help those things come to fruition?
And just to add on to that as well, political engagement is usually relatively low. I mean, a lot of people don't vote not because they don't feel represented, but a lot of people just don't vote because they don't fucking care. And like a lot of people just don't have the. It's something that I think you as well as us, it's hard to really comprehend that most people aren't as politically engaged. Like we view it's our entire life. We talk about it way too much. That's why we've got the podcast. Part of the reason we started the podcast is because our wives got so fucking annoyed that we kept talking about politics at the bar and everything every time we go out. And that's kind of the thing that we need to remember is getting out of our echo chamber. Making politics palatable is not necessarily giving people more information. And when you respond to polls are people, it's easy to click a button, or polls overrepresent people who are more engaged and underrepresent people who, again, just don't give a shit. So on top of what he said, I think political engagement, getting millions and millions and millions of people involved, as much as we think that those people should be civically involved and they should just want to intrinsically do that, that's incredibly difficult. Ask anybody who's ever run any type of, political campaign whatsoever.
Yeah, so the core three goals that we have is true citizen representation, leveling the playing field, so that's like the money out of politics. And number three is about digestible politics. We want it to be that like every election, an average American can spend maybe 1 to 2 hours per election, like every 2 years, to go on one platform. They can say, this is where I stand on policies. It'll be like a date, like one of the features we're going to be offering is like almost like a dating service, and say, where do you stand on climate change? How important is this issue? Where do you stand on healthcare? How important is this issue? And it'll show you a matchmaker. It'll show you this person's an 80% match, 20% match, so on and so forth. So the idea is to make it easier, more palatable, more digestible, speak it in short pieces. You could choose a 30-second video to learn something about a candidate. You could read a 10-page document if you want. You could read just a post. Like the whole point of what we're doing is to make it simpler, more digestible, more understandable. I mean, one of the biggest issues, like I talked to thousands of citizens in the last year, 2.5 years, and, a lot of people, like, I mean, half my team has never even voted before, and now they're volunteering the rest, like right now, and they're willing to spend the rest of their life to change the system. You know, there's an argument, and we don't have a true answer, any of us, of whether people are just distracted because they don't care, or it's because, you know, since basically 2008, the system hasn't really been working for any of us. And you know, even when we were growing up and little kids, our cartoons, they would make fun of how a politician and lawyers are like the most evil parts of society. So like, it's innate in our structure that we know politicians are corrupt. We know they lie. And so why be part of it when you know your vote basically doesn't count? I understand why half the country doesn't vote. But it does show in other countries, some of them get up to 80% of their citizens do vote. But anyway, regardless of that, I mean, the point even is that most people that do vote are not even Democrats or Republicans. They are independent. And I mean, you know, look at Bernie. He got more non-voters than like anyone when he was running in 2016 and 2020. And, you know, when you have a truly grassroots candidate that, you know, regardless of where anyone feels about the policy stances, like it drives more people to want to vote. And like why would people, you know, your voice doesn't count, and like going to the polls to vote for the lesser two evils is not very motivating. So like you and I, who again, like you said, are more politically obsessed, are gonna do it no matter what. But you know, people are not going to be motivated for the lesser two evils of like, you know, people are saying like Democrats are just vote for us. We're not Trump. And that's how they stand. So, you know, building a system that actually is what it was always supposed to be. Like all of us, until we were like 12 or 14, we saw the American dream, believed in the American dream. Then we all learn as we get older that the system is broken. It's not, the dream is not really there. And this is the first way to really bring that dream to fruition. And it just, the more you probe into it, it just makes the most logical sense, ethical sense. It's what most America wants. I mean, I doubt you're going to argue that people would want to keep money in politics. And like, the thing that a lot of people miss in this is like, you know, you're talking about billions of dollars against us, the party leaders against us, the establishment media against us. How are we going to take that on? By bypassing it. All we're doing, if you go directly to the voters, connect them into a new infrastructure that aligns on like, helps them decide who would they want to vote for. Here's some new independent media. Don't look at the 6 mainstream media news. Look at these independent media. We're not going to vet it. It could be left, right, wherever on the fence. We just want to have more decentralized, journalists connected to citizens. We want the third-party independent candidates to have a chance to speak to the citizens. And, you know, it doesn't matter how big and monstrous the system is. If you could beeline the citizen directly into a new infrastructure, you know, something, you know, freaking Facebook has 3 billion monthly users on it. If we had people checking in even like once a year to align themselves on like, who should I vote for? You know, out of like a lot of the thousands of people, especially the younger people that I've spoken to, the number one thing they say is that it's too overwhelming to decide who to vote for. especially like when it comes to the primary, which the primary is arguably more important than the general to get the actual right candidate. But it's so hard. How do you know who's progressive? How do you most people don't know open secrets exist. I've talked to a lot of people. Very few people know that exists. Those that do say it's not user friendly. They have trouble navigating it. Things like that. So again, we want to build something that literally every American would want, and building it with them to own it. They're literally going to own it, not more than me. I'm going to have literally the same percentage of a ownership as any other American opting into this. And there's no reasons to not want it other than the defeatism. We just have to slowly climb the mountain of defeatism. We have thousands of followers now, get it into the millions, and, you slowly work your way up and it's all about just going over the defeatism.
Okay. So I guess so what I'm getting as far as the technology side of things is you want to create an aggregator of basically like an open secrets, political compass, like Ballotpedia, and other, basically all the organizations that currently have all the information that you're talking about, just not in one spot, not in a user-friendly app, and not a interactive platform. And so you're looking to combine all of those aspects into one user experience.
Yeah, so that's one piece of the technology. But yeah, that's the political side, the political report card side. But then we're going to have a home for independent media where all the journalists are going to have a place. Right now they get demonetized on YouTube and different places when you're too radical. We're going to build a platform that would guarantee you will not be too radical. You will not get demonetized. We're not going to manipulate the algorithms. So there's going to be a section for journalists, like a section for movements. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it's a one-stop shop for all politics. Everything from journalists, movements, the politicians, parties, like the one-stop shop. And it's not like, oh, you want a platform that you're going to control. No, we're not. We want it America's going to control. This is going to be a communal system. It's going to be publicly owned, but as a private entity, but publicly owned by everyone. So it's not like, oh, well, FINC's going to be in charge of it. Nope. That's not the plan. The goal is just to have true democracy. So third parties are going to want it. Independents are going to want it. Independent, media is going to want it because everyone's getting screwed except for those in power. So, they're going to, most people are going to want it. Just a matter of time.
Would you consider working with a group like Ground News to also provide like a news capability?
Yeah. Actually, we really like Ground News. We've been following them.
Ground News is pretty sweet. Okay, so that's more or less the technology side of things. What you mentioned that you actually think the psychology aspects of your coalition is more important. How does that play into this?
Yeah, so part of it is like kind of another way to say it in a nutshell is that FINC wants to be the connective tissue. So there is no competitor. There's no one trying to do what we're doing. If somebody thinks that there's a competitor, it's really just somebody that we would want to interconnect into this network. Our job, we just want to be the referee on the side. We want to just interconnect again anyone that's outside the system, third parties, independents, independent media, all these different stakeholders of democracy. And so the idea is to part of the psychology idea is that digital democracy is going to be the literal and digital embodiment of America's democracy. And it's going to take the way the legal structure is going to be, the way we build the way it's framed to people, the way people are going to be, we have to earn their trust that their voice is going to be heard. It's going to be on a very transparent blockchain technology so they could see exactly how the tech is being created. No one can accuse us for playing with the algorithms. So a lot of it is about building trust and making it really earning people's trust that this will truly be something unprecedented and truly be something that they will have control over. And so that's some of the psychology is just it's all about, again, the framing. We have a couple candidates now that consider themselves DP aligned, digital politics aligned. We don't endorse candidates, we never will, but we could tell people who's DP aligned, as in they're not going to take big money, super PAC money, things like that. And so the psychology behind it is really showing America that they have more in common than they have apart. I know it feels very, super divisive right now. It feels like it's the extreme, but it is a lot of just the extreme voices being pinned against each other. But most people do land. I don't like to say somewhere in the middle, but there's a lot of people have there's a lot of stances on things. Labels get in the way of a lot of things. I mean, a lot of socialist type policies, they do polling all the time where if somebody doesn't know it's socialist, they like to agree with a lot of those policies, but then as soon as they know it's socialist, that number goes way down. And we want to separate labels from this. We don't want people to be distracted by labels. Why don't we just go policy by policy, essentially, and what does America want? What makes the most sense to get the most Americans, the happiest and the healthiest, at the most efficient way possible? We literally, we've been talking to Republicans, Democrats, anarchists, libertarians, communists, there's very few movements that could say they get communists and anarchists in the same boat, but so it's really this new framing of what is possible, what does America want, and then building something that if they could see this as the official alternative to the current political system, that you go to this platform to decide who you want to vote for. It's not biased in any way. It follows whatever ideology you want to support. It's going to match you to the people that you want to vote for. And so it's all about the framing and also speaking to people's narratives. I could go to Thanksgiving dinner and talk to people where half is Republican, half is Democrat, and everything about digital politics, no one gets heated or angry because everyone will agree on the same on these core democracy issues.
Okay, so I agree. I mean, some sort of platform like the one that you guys are talking about, I definitely don't think it could hurt. I think it's definitely definitely a long time coming, considering it's 2025, and there isn't a single platform for a lot of the things you're talking about. Like you said, there's a lot of places where you could get this information, but you have to know about them and or locate them separately. That seems like nothing but good. Informed citizens. If we can make it easy for people to be informed, all the better. Do you think that is more effective, or do you just want this to be supplementary to some of the movements that currently exist that are trying to dismantle some of the issues that we've been talking about, like ending Citizens United, adding ranked choice voting, or creating multi-member districts for Congress, or publicly funded elections? Do you feel like what you're talking about, what your coalition is about, is something that is potentially more useful, or you just feel like it's a long time coming and it definitely doesn't hurt to have it be supplementary?
Yeah, great question. So really, ultimately, we want this to amplify those existing efforts. We want to build the missing puzzle piece. So we would say that this is more than just supplementary. This is the missing puzzle piece as to why reforms are not succeeding. By adding this connective tissue. So, for example, we don't even support directly ranked choice voting. We say we want flexible voting methods. We support things like ranked choice voting and proportional voting. Am I the expert to say which one America should go to? No, that's not for us to decide. We're the referee. So we're not the expert in any of it. We're more of the expert in the breadth of everything. We want to just encompass as many different reforms into one shell as possible, and not to say everyone has to agree with everyone. Everyone's going to fight, and then some people are going to go to the flexible voting, the proportional voting people, and some are going to go to ranked choice voting, and same with third parties. There's going to be times when people within this ecosystem are going to compete with one another, and that's democracy.
Will this system, will this system,
yeah.
will your system include the party system as well, or is it going to be completely separate from that? So this is going
No.
This is going to include people running for primary and Republican and Democrat primaries as well, and it's going to
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah. And the big thing with that is that we want to emphasize, like, if you're going to stay in the two parties, that's totally fine. We're not here to even convince you not to vote for two parties. However, we would emphasize to get in be involved in the primary. If you're going to stay two party, please go, the primary is so important.
Well,
so that would be all we would say
I think
on that.
Taylor and I, because we've spent, again, a lot of time hashing this stuff out because, as I said before, we are all in agreement that we would love to see structural change, like major structural change, and figuring out the ways to make those happen. I'm very much a pragmatic realist, and I still consider myself a leftist or a progressive. And being a pragmatic realist tends to get me in trouble with that faction of the left, because the left, spends more time fighting itself than doing anything else. It's our favorite hobby. But the reality that, like, we've kind of come to in our I think our roadmap that we found was probably the most viable to achieving at least some of these changes. And granted, many of them will not come in our lifetime, sadly. But the roadmap to seeing some of these changes is focusing heavy on getting candidates primaried that can make structural fundamental change within the current system, because obviously the structure is there to make that system work. The defeatism is already off. I mean, that takes that defeatism off the table if you say, hey, if you get involved in your congressional primaries and everything like that in the system that at least if if it's a Democrat running on the ticket or it's a Republican running on the ticket that's running for your values, at least they do have that sense of a chance to win. You don't have that third-party defeatism there. And then pushing those people to start putting in the restructuring of the policy, start promoting the policies that you want, and then, again, using it, maybe a system like what you're coming up with is the way to push that forward. Say, this is what the people want this system to be. We want bills introduced, that, and then obviously ballot initiatives as well, because that's as close to direct democracy as we can get in our current system. So, I mean, I guess I think Taylor, would you agree that that's sort of where we've landed on as far as how we figure we can actually move this whole system forward?
Yeah, I mean, working within the bounds that currently exist in the realm, of the current reality,
Mm-hmm.
be that as it may, so corrupt as it is, like, that is really, and obviously reforming the way that we do democracy and getting money out of politics, and trying to get rid of the electoral college, for one, for sure, things like that. Yeah, I guess reformist type policies, you could say.
Yeah, so I mean, I 100% support that. I mean, again, like us, we're just taking a neutral stance, and the other thing is we want to add more fluidity, like our generations are more fluid than the ones that came before, and like, would it matter so much? What if, some of them win through the Democrat primary, and then some people are a third party or independent? All that really matters are they going to caucus in the right spot when it matters? So, as FINC, we're not pushing anyone in any direction. If people like you flood this system and 90% of people want to just stick to just working through the primary, we're not going to push it against it. We just want not those in power to make these decisions. Now we have to acknowledge that the primaries are heavily rigged. We saw that with Bernie and a lot of other people.
For sure. I'd say the lower you get down, again, when we're talking about electoral stuff, and I think, again, what Taylor and I have been talking about a lot, and why I think that, and I'm not trying to pick on your system, I'm just trying to understand it, and obviously offer some constructive perspectives. I hope constructive perspectives. Part of the issue, part of the reason that we have this two-party system that maintains all of this power isn't necessarily defeatism in that third parties don't work, or that people just don't believe
Not
that
originally,
that their voice doesn't matter. It's just that, again, it goes back to people not being engaged, and we see this with voter turnout in primaries. We see this with voter turnout in local elections. We see this with voter roll-off going down. Everybody gets out and they vote for the president once every 4 years. Maybe they'll vote for their senator. You might get lucky and they vote for their congressman, and then suddenly, they don't vote for their state and house reps a lot of the times. fuck if they vote for judges or school board or anything like that. And that's where a lot of these fundamental structural changes that affect all of our lives happen, right? And I think that I guess I don't know exactly where, because we wouldn't have these people in power that are abusing the power that we've privileged them with having if we got involved at that primary level, if we got involved at that, you know, those local levels and didn't allow those people to elevate themselves. But the people who figure out how to game the current system and get themselves into those positions higher up where they become a little bit more untouchable for us is really our fault for a lack of engagement. And I hope very much so, like, I appreciate what you're doing. I hope that it can help address that problem, but I don't see how you get those people that are not political nerds like we are, who live and breathe this shit, engaged to the level that they need to be to solve those fundamental problems. Because yeah, you could get the Green Party could do a lot if they had spent the past since Reagan putting people in city councils and state rep positions, and those people would then be moving up through the House and the Senate. Like, the third party system could be functional if there was ever a coalition, a party, some group of people who are willing to put in the legwork on the bottom and not just run for president once every 4 years for some apparent reason and do nothing else. And that's kind of where I guess I get frustrated. I get defeated with the voting populace in general based on that, and with third-party people in general based on that. And I don't know, like, I appreciate what you're doing because you're trying to find a solution to that problem. I just don't understand how we're going to get through, you know, that's a psychology thing, that's a mass psychology thing that is difficult to figure out, you know? I mean,
yeah, I mean, ultimately, like, I totally get what you're saying there, but I mean, some of it is it's the chicken or the egg, and we can't really find the exact answer. But you know, again, if you feel like your voice doesn't count, the system stays essentially what it is. Whether there's a Democrat or Republican in office, the rich get richer, the poor are getting poorer, the environment's falling apart. You know, so for the average person, like, yeah, when with us more paying attention, we see the difference. But, you know, from when you're zoomed out and you're just your day-to-day life, you don't see much of a difference between the establishment choices. You know, if they actually saw, if all of a sudden we woke up and the right people were in Congress, within 2 to 4 years, people would notice a difference. Their economy, the confidence in everything, they would see changes, roads getting fixed, like schools improving. So it is. Yeah.
I love that you feel that way, but then I look again, just historically, at every time, even though it's never going to be in 2 to 4 years the changes that we want to see, and unfortunately, I think that's why again we end up in the places that we're at, because like you look even just over this past 10 years, right? We had Obama, who inherited a horrible economy and did a lot, like, far from perfect. We've got plenty of criticisms of Obama. He's still a very status quo president, but the economy from when he was the very first person I ever voted for in 2008 when I turned 18, the economy then and the economy he left us with when he left office, very different. And like, again, we're politically engaged, I could see that, but a lot of people didn't feel that it was. They have short-term memory, they forget. I don't know, people eat too much lead paint. I don't know what the fucking problem is, but people forget. And then they elected a circus clown, well, and then he destroys the world, and they're like, shit, maybe we shouldn't have done that. And then they elected somebody else who, again, did a lot to bring forward those projects in those kinds of years. Things got markedly better, still not where any of us wanted it to be, still a status quo situation, and people are like, not good enough, we're gonna try that shit that just ruined everything again 4 years ago all over again. And so that's where I want to have that kind of faith in humanity that you seem to have, but they're not giving me a whole lot. They're not selling me on it very well, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but like, so you're talking about Obama now. Again, in a lot of people that I've talked to, that Obama is always been a turning point of, like, he ran on change. He made it seem like he would be more progressive. Like, I hear so many times that they lost faith in Democrats after he ran, and they proved that he would not fulfill his promises, that they couldn't even get a public option in healthcare. They did a Republican healthcare bill. It basically was Romney care. So they passed a Republican healthcare bill. So people's faith, a lot of people, especially on the progressives, it died with that scenario. They felt that they can't trust that the Democrats anymore. And so there's a big difference between, are Republicans winning, or is it just Democrats suck so bad that they're just losing so bad?
It's definitely,
it's more
a lot
of
of that. But I'm just saying, objectively speaking, if you look at, and we can go back throughout U.S. history, basically, and you see a political party gain power, do something bad and wreck everything, get voted out, another political party come in, start fixing the mess, and again, you're never 4 years, it doesn't matter if you had everybody you would ever want in Congress at the right time, you're never going to get things fixed in a few years. These are generational changes that these things kind of go through. And even when you do get, like, things passed, like infrastructure gets passed, like the interstate system was passed in the 50s and wasn't completed until the 90s. Like, these things don't happen overnight. And we are a very instant gratification species in general, and society. And so we see this over and over again, where one political party, one political ideology wins, destroys everything. Another political party, another political ideology comes in, starts fixing things. It's not fixed well enough, fast enough. Again, it wasn't good enough because we didn't get the public option. We didn't pull out of Afghanistan. We didn't do whatever the promise.
Bailed out Wall Street.
Whatever those things are. And so then, instead of being like, all right, let's take what we've built on so far and try to get people who can build on top of that, we're just like, let's burn it all down and start the whole process over again. And that's where I guess I just don't have that faith. And it wasn't specifically Obama. I was just using that because it's an example right now. But we could go back to, again, FDR if we want, and the Great
Well, FDR made a lot of changes in just a couple. But that proves the opposite.
And it took a complete crash of the economy of the World War to do it. Yeah.
We don't have the war, but we have the economy crash. But you're caving into gradualism, and our generation doesn't like the gradualism thing. So I mean, I totally get what you're saying. I mean, that's my thing. I can see where you're coming from, but I also know the other narratives that are in this country, and that it's not that, I'm just trying to measuring all the different realities, and and unfortunately some people are not going to be necessarily educated. Maybe there's a reason they should have given him more of a chance. All they see is, my life didn't get better. Obama bailed out Wall Street. They spent trillions of dollars bailing out those that already have billions of dollars. And where are we today? The airports are crumbling. They promised at the time that the airports would get better. That was a huge jump in the progressive movement right there. Was Occupy Wall Street was a huge push towards what we have now as the progressive movement. So I don't know. I mean, I know this isn't something I don't think we'll agree on that, and it's fine. But the other point I want to
anything specifically here, I'm just saying, I was just countering the point that you made, that people, if we got some really good people in and started making the changes that we felt like needed to be made, everybody would be engaged and feel like the system's working.
Not everyone, but I would argue that more people would be engaged. I would, and I don't think we're going to agree on that, but that is where I would stand.
Engaged. I just don't see, because even with FDR, who did get a lot done, and again, one of my favorite presidents, and a president again I can criticize all day long too if we want to get into it. The pushback was insane, even in his time, from, and it was the same fucking lines. Oh, everything, that they don't like is socialism or communism, and at that point, the system was so broken, and maybe we could very possibly be on the brink of having such a huge system break at this point that we can get those type of New Deal changes. But the New Deal was also a capitalist compromise at the time. If we're really getting into it, the New Deal was the moderate change. Mm-hmm. That was the...
Yeah.
It was that, or we were going, Blashkovich on this bitch, and that's what I think people forget too. So I don't know. I want to have more faith in people in our country, and I really think that that's where our maybe our not alignment is coming on. I've lost a lot of faith in people over the past few years.
See, it's defeatism. Yeah. That's the defeatism. But what
Mhm.
I'm not saying you're wrong, or well, I am, but it's not bad. Like, but you are saying you're saying that's the defeatism. But anyway, so the big point I just want to get across on this too is that ultimately we want people to be able to make way more of an impact with way less of an effort. Like right now, a movement says you have to take a bus to another state, protest all day long, spend money surviving that whole day, take a bus back, and that's how you change things. And like they haven't evolved to the digital age. You could do things on your phone now. So we're basically trying to devise a new system where you could change the world by spending 5 minutes on your phone before bed, or an hour on the weekend, or just every 6 months or once a year. And I can emphasize this I can't emphasize this too much, that people are overwhelmed by the information. I mean, let's say, okay, I want to vote third party. All right, there's 20 different not third parties to vote for. Like, now what do you do? Like, there's choice paralysis is a real thing. And like, I mean, even me as an informed voter, I just had to vote for my primary, and even that, it's hard to know who's the establishment pick, who's the grassroots pick, and then why are you going to spend hours to vote for somebody when you ultimately feel like your vote's not going to matter anyway? So, you know, if it just took an hour every 2 years to really make a difference, we say, listen, you don't have to be on this site at all. Just, you know, a week before the election, do a little, like, fill out a quick little survey. What do you care about? Here's who you should vote for. If you want to dive in deeper, dive in deeper. If not, don't. You want to push a button, it'll print, these are the people you wanted to vote for. Take that to the ballot and just click those buttons and you're done. Here's your voting information. Here's how you register. Like, just making it super easy for people so they're not overwhelmed. They don't need to spend a lot of time. They don't need to do a lot of research. A lot of people don't know how to research, is his own thing. So all of that in a one-stop shop to just simplify everything. And then even, like, you know, a lot of Democrats do this where they use the fancy talk and like political blah, blah, blah jargon. Like, you guys don't do that, but like, you know, like a lot of the politicians, like, they talk in a way that no average American is going to understand it. And so we want that to be translated to normal people. So less effort,
I love
more
that
impact.
idea. Yeah, absolutely. As far as that access. Go ahead, Taylor. Taylor, you're muted.
Of course I am. Was just typing some stuff earlier. Are you guys going to use like a system like Political Compass, or how are you going to help people identify, make the bridge between policies and ethics, personal ethics?
I mean, we really want to do more of an a la carte. Like, one of the first things, if you're going to create a citizen profile, you would set where you set yourself on each policy stance. The only thing that we're really trying to push is up versus down. We're going to show you the establishment candidates. We're going to say, hey, they're not necessarily trustworthy, you know, not in those words, but we're going to show, like, you know, they're not consistent in their promises. They have conflicts of interest. You know, if you care about climate change, don't vote for somebody that takes $10 million from big oil, that kind of a thing. But ultimately, it's going to just be a system where you say where you stand on policies, and we're going to match you to who you align with. We're not here to tell you what's good, what's morally correct. You know, there'll be identifier, like somebody identifies as a Democrat, Republican, third party as a politician. Like, they'll be able to identify it themselves. Maybe there'll be some kind of compass that would say kind of where that might be a tool, but it definitely wouldn't be a key focus point.
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm excited about a lot of the stuff that, you know, like you're talking about here, like some of the technology and the platform, like that. It's a really cool thing. I wish I had an app right now that was a place to connect some of that information all in one spot and be able to connect to, you know, other people who also view some of these potentially grassroots and unknown people because they're not establishment. Like, to highlight some of those people.
Yeah, it would be incredibly helpful too for more local races that don't have as easily accessible information, or nonpartisan races like judges and stuff, because every race really ends up being partisan. So understanding what people are actually standing for And having, I think that ability to connect you, so when you do want to get involved with campaigns or parties or movements, whatever they may be, having one centralized place to go, I do think that that is all an excellent idea. I definitely think some more work needs to be done on the elevator pitch and understanding it, because obviously we've been fleshing this out for an hour, and I think we're finally starting to wrap our heads around what you're putting together, but something that 30 seconds, and I could be like, oh yeah, no, that sounds awesome. So I hope you guys are able to do that, because I think that'll really help selling what you're doing. But I appreciate the hell out of the fact that you're putting your effort and time into making politics more accessible, and hopefully more engaging for people, because that really is, I think, the big problem is a lack of engagement. And I hope that this would be a solution, and I absolutely support anybody who's willing to try something, anything at all. So thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I guess we're basically running up to the end of the episode here. Is there anything that people should be on the lookout for from Future Is Now?
Yeah, you have social media presence, anything you want to plug right now. Do all your shameless plugs. Let everybody know where they can find you, how they can support you, all your stuff right now.
Yeah, sure. So, visit our website, futureis.org. It's under construction right now. Within the next couple weeks, it should have a major upgrade, a lot more clear, more concise. Our socials are pretty much at futureis.org. Where our main ones is TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, and we're also on Facebook and probably most of them. You'll see them all on our website. Discord is our online community. Anyone could join and start being part of this. Like right from the beginning, we want America to give their feedback, give their input. We want to build this with America. We're not just building it for America. And within the next couple weeks, along with the website upgrade, is going to be an app, not Digital Democracy, but it's going to be the DP app, which will be kind of a direct two-way relationship between citizens and this movement, where it really plugs America into submit surveys. Where do you stand on policy issues? Where do you want the future of democracy to go? Do you want third parties? Do you want no parties? A lot of different features are going to be in the DP app, and it's the starting point to build the next stage of building the nitty-gritty parts of the digital democracy platform.
Well, thank you again so much for coming on and explaining to us what you're working on, and indulging all of our questions. And certainly hope you didn't feel like we were attacking you or criticizing you. Again, just trying to figure stuff out, and I really do appreciate what you're doing. For everybody else listening and watching, we appreciate the fact that you guys come in here and spend every week with us, giving us the opportunities to talk to cool people and exchange ideas like this. We do this because you guys listen, and I wish that it was everything that made this run, but if you want to support us and help us with the nuts and bolts of it, you can do that with a subscription on YouTube or Patreon. You can also buy merch off thewagon.com. You can get all of my merch, including the sunglasses, as well as Let Them Eat Toast merch. Otherwise, we've got direct donation links in the bios of all of our social media. And other than that, we just really appreciate you guys giving us a little bit of your time, and hope that what we provide you with is worth that time in the end. So we will see you guys next week, and we appreciate you, Travis, for being here, and we hope to talking to you in the future once this gets a little bit more fully formed and hopefully has some more structure that we can really dive into.
Sure, sounds great.
Yeah, if you wanna come back on when you got a functional app and we go through some things, that'd be great. It's been a pleasure talking with you, Travis, and thanks everybody for tuning in.
See you next week.